Dan Rothenberg and Joe Klosik, two guys trying to figure it out. Not the right wing, not the brosphere. Left of center, with humor and empathy. Welcome to the Splain. Hello. Like and subscribe for crying out loud.
To the Splain. We are interviewing comedians from
comedians,
from the Bay Area
and
LA to Portland, Oregon. Yeah,
we're taking it up a notch. By the way, before we there's Ron. Hello, Ron. We're gonna be talking and getting your wisdom very shortly. Dan, let me tell you, just with some housekeeping, and Ron, you might remember this gentleman too, Hutch. I spoke with Hutch. Who's in Portland, Dan? Yeah, he's in your city, but I
haven't been to that Trader Joe's. What do you want from me?
He's interested in letting us interview him, but a little nervous, I might say too.
Nervous?
A little nervous, but he said he did watch one of our shows, as he called it, which I think was adorable. And I told him, look, we just want to pick your brain. What do you remember? Some stories. What was that like back then? Why were you so psychologically damaging to us? Just easy.
Why do I still want your approval?
Why do I wake up on Sundays like, oh, I hope Hutch likes me? Why? Yeah. Things like that.
And yes, if you excuse the term, the gatekeepers of comedy. Hold a lot of, on the one hand, hold a lot of power and influence. On the other hand, hold a lot of mentorship and guidance, and they let us through.
Yeah, well put. I would agree with that. And so, in keeping with that, we like to focus on specifically local San Francisco comic or comics that came out of San Francisco. And Ron, you hold a very unique position, right? Because, you do, and I don't mean that in like a cutesy or weird way.
No, I also say the same thing on Grindr, but anyway.
Okay.
Not only are you a product of San Francisco comedy and came up through it, but you also book acts at the Punchline, right? So you are, and I'm really curious about this because I imagine it's got to be very difficult. You are a gatekeeper and a performer, and I imagine that does not always work well together.
No, it's terrible.
All right, good. Let's start there. Tell us about it. And to again, not to cut you off, because I am afraid that you'll be upset at me for cutting you off and then not give me stage time. See, that's the dynamic. That's what we're working with. Even though I'm not even asking for stage time, I don't really perform anymore. But that's the
fear.
You're in. Yeah. So what's that like, Ron?
Well, there's so much. So I lived here for 20 years. I started doing the work with the Punchline and the other Live Nation clubs around 2016 or so, maybe 2015. I can't even remember, but sometime around that time. And then I moved to Las Vegas for 5 years in 2020. And I want to say that the comedy scene in Vegas is definitely not like the Bay Area comedy scene, but what was really nice for my first year or two is that nobody knew anything but me as a comic. And that was sort of refreshing. So I come back here, and it's the same story all over again. Every time that I show up somewhere, Ron's here, and don't do this, and don't do that, and maybe he'll see me. I'm like, I am just there to be a comedian. I'm only judging, and I hate that word, but it is true. When I'm like looking at you in terms of like how you are as a comedian, and if you work at our clubs or if you will work at our clubs, I'm doing that at our venues. When I go out, I just want to be a comic who is working on their own shit, who is working, getting paid to be there and entertain audiences. And that's really difficult because I always wind up having to talk shop, but I love talking shop about comedy. I am like grandpa comedy these days, I've been around in comedy for 25 years as well, so I love talking about it, but it always finds its way to like revert back to like the club and how do I get booked and this and that, and that becomes rather irritating.
I can imagine. Well, you know what? Let's back up a little bit. Let's start with just the most obvious question.
If you're grandpa, what are you, Joe? Oh,
Nice, Dan. Nice.
okay.
Really?
Continue.
I'm like
Not to throw that
cryogenically
in.
frozen, Grandpa.
You are Han Solo
Oh
in the-
God!
in
And
the
now you
fucking-
fumble a Star Wars reference. Jesus, Dan. Why are we friends? I got to rethink this
because
relationship.
of my son.
So, Ron, do you remember your first set? Do you remember, like, open mic, first time you tried it? What was it like?
Oh, my first set as a comedian?
Yeah.
Oh, I got a very false sense of what comedy would be like because I actually took a comedy class in New York City before I moved to San Francisco. So this was probably like early 2001. And our graduation class was at Caroline's Comedy Club.
Wow.
On like a Sunday at 5:30. But still, it's Caroline's. So it gives you a very false sense. And you're like, oh, this is amazing, and we're treated well. And the audiences are always going to be like this. And then you start doing bringers in New York City where you have to bring 3 people, 5 people, 7 people. And even if you bring those people, you might get pushed back if somebody wants to, like, come in. For example, I remember a few months into comedy, there was a club called Stand Up New York, which was a pretty popular club. And I was probably doing like a Monday night or a Tuesday night at 9 o'clock, and those shows went on forever. And I bought people, and they were getting antsy, and they wanted to leave, and it was probably like a quarter to midnight, and I still hadn't gone up, and I was about to go up, and then Lisa Lampanelli, who had the hot hand at the time, came in and bumped me off for a few more spots, and then she also did a lot of time, and she killed, and then there's me, like 3 months in, trying to do my jokes, like at 12:15 in the morning, and then the people who, like, I brought to the show are like, ugh, why are we doing this, you know?
Oh, man.
So,
Yeah.
so that is sort of my early start in comedy, and I was only
So
there
they use you for your new, and you bring people, and then they put up veterans, and then throw you on at the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's Bringers in New York City or wherever they do Bringers, which fortunately is not a model in San Francisco. But that is sort of how I started, and I was only there for about 6 months before I moved to the Bay Area. I actually moved to the Bay Area on September 7th, 2001. And
Wait, September 7th? So, like a week before 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah, 5
Wow.
days. Yeah, 4 days. or
Did you
so.
start doing comedy right away in the Bay Area?
Do you know that I was so, when you're brand new in comedy, you are so gung-ho, and you just want to get every bit of stage time, and this is amazing, and so do you know I didn't even realize how severe 9/11 was? I was also 21, and I tried going, I think, to the Seabiscuit.
Seabiscuit, wow.
I hopped on a bus.
Yeah.
And I was staying in West Portal when I first moved here. So I hopped on a bus, not knowing where I was going, all the way out to the Sunset. And I was also so young and naive. Like, I walked onto the bus and I put like a $10 bill into the bus, to pay. And the guy I'd like, change. And he just looked at me like, ha ha ha. And I was like, oh, I'm San Francisco now. I'm here. And there was no mic that night because people were wiser than me. And there you go. So yeah, I tried doing comedy right away. There was I particularly don't like, I don't know what you call it, like safe space comedy. I'll do any room, anywhere, right? That to me, that's a comedian. But I get it if some people don't feel safe or they don't feel comfortable. But at the time, there was Q Comedy, which was ran by Nick Leonard. And
I remember that.
Was, I think a monthly or a weekly at the time Monday night show featuring a lot of LGBT comedians and allies and stuff like that. And so I started doing those shows when I moved here, and that was kind of a great way in. And then I started hanging out at the Punchline in San Francisco, and I was just doing the Sunday night showcase and hanging out and getting up occasionally, but not taking it too seriously until about 2008. And then a couple comics told me, you either do comedy or you don't do comedy. What do you want out of it? And at that time, somebody else, was running the Sunday night showcase and in charge of like passing people and doing auditions. And what? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not going to be the one to say things. I'm not.
No, it's a historical fact.
They don't prefer their name. I mean, I don't prefer my name to be out there. Can we just call me something else?
Okay, I wasn't casting a judgment on it. Okay, so it was Melissa. Continue.
Yes, it was.
So yeah, it's my bad. It's on
I
me.
mean, she's not even in the business anymore. I don't think she would. I don't think that's a mean thing to mention her with. I mean, but let me ask you, what was your take? Like, so you're not a booker, you're not part of the club, you're just a young comic trying to get in the scene. What was your take on Sunday night?
I thought it was amazing. I thought it was cool. Here's the thing. A lot of comics, I think social media is part of the problem now, of course, right? Because we're searching for those 1-minute clicks, and so many people are getting instant, recognition and fame, and then they're going out and they're headlining, even when they don't have the 45 or the 60 and things like that. So they don't like the process. And I think the process is very important, and it really helps groom comedians and make them a comedy club act. But it also helps you realize the difference between what a comedy club act is and what a bar act is, and how to do comedy in theaters and how to do comedy in different places. It's a really good process, but you show up. You can network with people, right? In the beginning, you hang out. I always tell people right there, it's very valuable just to show up, because that's how you get on other local shows.
Yeah.
Oh, what are you doing next Wednesday? I have a spot at blah, 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 blah. It happens all the time.
All the time, yeah. That's true. That is true. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you watch the show, and you may get picked to go up. You may not get picked to go up that night. That is how the process works. And then you continue to watch the show, and the more seasoned comedians go on towards the latter portion. That is also very valuable time that people take for granted. They want to leave. They want to go outside and smoke cigarettes. They think, this person's just kind of like a has-been or whatever. No. You get to watch why it works in the room, why it doesn't work in the room sometimes, and watch how they handle if they stumble, if something weird's happening because it's check shop. Like, that is all very valuable information. And at the end, again, you get the network on your way out. And I like the process. I always say, if it wasn't for San Francisco comedy in general and the process of the punchline, I would have never done comedy this long. That bringer process in New York City wasn't going to be sustainable. And so I love it.
That's a horrible process.
It is not a horrible process. And
No. The bringers.
Oh, the bringers. Yeah. It doesn't encourage good comedy. It doesn't encourage growth. It just kind of encourages comics to burn out, be angry.
Yeah, it's butts and seats. That's
it's
all.
It's bad enough we show up and we perform for free with no union and no anything. It's just all passion. Bringing people is sort of a bridge too far in terms of our kind of self-esteem and the integrity we bring. But if you're new, you do what you got to do. If you're brand new, whatever.
But it's the same thing as when I was writing on Fashion Police around 2011, 2012, and then a bunch of the writers sort of went on strike because we weren't union. There's always someone around the corner just ready to take that really crappy paycheck from you that you've been fighting to get the better paycheck for all the work. And that's exactly what happened. We never unionized because they didn't need us, because there was 10 other people ready to work for $460 a week. And so it's the same thing with bringer shows, because I'll still get emails from people. I'm visiting from blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, I know people, I can bring people. And I go, I don't care. I don't care if you could bring people. I preserve this for locals first. And then I always say, if you can add value to our show, then I will gladly put you on. But that doesn't mean putting 7 people. Now, maybe Live Nation doesn't want to hear this. That doesn't mean putting 17 people in the seats. But as someone who's trying to preserve local comedy and help encourage comics and local comics to grow, that is my number one. That's my number one thing, with comedy, is the local scene. And yes, I'm also booking the punchlines in Irving, Texas, and Houston, Texas, and I still try to do locals first. So when someone says, "Oh, I'm from Amarillo," I'll be like, "Let me know when you move to Irving," because you have to let that local scene thrive. And as time goes on, there's less and less spots available to local comics. More people want to bring openers, features. They want to do two-person shows, and I always think that comics are getting bumped a lot, and I hate it. And my boss and I'm always having this conversation. Can we keep them? Can we do this? Is there a way? And we try to figure out creative ways. And I think it's very easy for comics to just blame me, because I tend to be the one that they know locally. They don't know a lot of the other people. The clubs
just blame you for the fact that
I'm
not getting on as much
the
as
only
they
one
were.
that they know. So they'll blame
I'm
me
sure.
for being bumped. They'll think that I maybe booked it when I shouldn't have booked it. Just anything that goes wrong. They don't realize the process, that this is a large company and there's like general managers and all sorts of other things. But I don't really want to talk about like that business in general, but just this model of like local comedy. And I think it is an extremely valuable process. And I also, because I moved away for 5 years, I also want to say, outside of Punchline and Cobb's, do not take San Francisco Bay Area comedy scene for granted.
Oh, no.
This
never.
has some of the best stage time and some of the most paying local stage time. I tell you, I was back for 2 weeks, and I made more money on local shows in 2 weeks than I would have made on 5 months in Las Vegas.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of stage time and paying stage time. And,
There is, yeah.
And also the length of set. This is a great place to try to grow from host to feature, to try to go from 15 to 25. But don't rush it. I think with social media, everybody's trying to rush it. And the amount of people that tell me I can feature, and I go,
Yeah. Featuring is not about the amount of time you have. It's just how solid you are, how much you found your voice.
Well,
We wanna
I think
hear
the
from
key
you
word
for a
here is
half hour.
consistency, too. A lot of people. I remember the story of a comic who wrote me on email and said, "Hey, I'm moving to blah blah blah, coming up, and I never got past at the Punchline. Can you give me some tips that I can use for my new city, and how I can work those clubs?" It took me about 3 to 4 weeks to write back, and I did, because I wanted to give a very thoughtful response. And I gave a very detailed and thoughtful response. And maybe 2 minutes went by after the 4 weeks that I took to write that. And I sent the email. 2 minutes went by. And I immediately got a somewhat argumentative email back. And I'm like, you asked for advice. I took a lot of time and effort to give you thorough and thoughtful advice. And now you're arguing with me. And this is not an argument.
It's not an argument.
No. And one of the key, it's not up for debate. And one of the key things that I said is, every time you went up to do a 7-minute set on a Sunday, you probably had 4 decent to really good minutes and 3 not so good minutes. So you didn't show consistency. And they replied back, well, one thing that really gets me is watching comics go up on a Sunday, and they'll just do the same set every time they go up. And I want to show you that I'm always writing and that. So I did a new 7 minutes every time. And I go, well, that's the problem. I don't want to see a new 7 minutes every time. I want to know that you can take that 7 and kill each time with it, and then you go to 15, and you take that 15 and be consistent, and that's what builds a strong club host. That's what builds a strong club feature. That's what builds a strong Tuesday night headliner. And those are the building blocks. Those are the foundations. Don't do quantity over quality, because that doesn't work for most people.
Damn it!
And probably, I would imagine in your position, if the comedian wasn't argumentative and took it and said, "Thank you, I'm gonna now give me the opportunity to show you I can take your feedback," that would probably work out well for them.
A lot of people just want to talk sometimes. And it happens even outside of comedy, because I've been a yoga teacher for 18 years, and people will write me a lot asking, hey, my my doctor, my therapist, somebody said that I should do yoga. And I'm like, well, what do you want out of it? What are you looking for? What, your physical health like? And I'll give them very specific information on it. like maybe you should start with a yin or a restorative or do this and that. And then I always check back in, and almost all the time they either never listened or they went, but they went to like the craziest thing, like a power vinyasa class. I'm like, no, you shouldn't do that. Or they did it once and was like, I can't touch my toes, and so they want this weird. They just want to talk, but not actually like listen, and they want this instant gratification. And so it's like that in so many things, I think, just with the way our society and nature and way of living is now. But it is, definitely the same in comedy. Another time, someone, not even from the Bay Area, they're in a pandemic, when things were starting to come back, said, I have 2 clips. Can you watch them? I'll actually pay you to watch them. And tell me which one's better to submit to. And they were very specific about what they wanted to submit to. So I was like, okay. And I watched them, and I gave them the feedback, and I picked the right clip, and then they argued with me. Oh, but I've got to do the other one because I'm like, why did you ask me? Why?
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're telling me that comedians have trouble with feedback?
Yeah, feedback. We want to just do what we want.
What?
Here's the thing when I give feedback, by the way. I never am going to try to change how... I might change how someone does comedy, but I want them to be them. Like, for instance, if you are a deadpan, low energy comic, and I said, in order to host, I need you to be, I need more energy from you. Well, if your whole set is one-liners that is low energy, to be like, hey, I need more energy from you, that's not really actually a good note. Mm-hmm. But the note might be, do what you do, you're a great writer, but now you have to find a way to sort of get the audience engaged.
Like, this is going to be your challenge.
Yes. Yeah,
so
because...
Figure it out.
Yeah. High energy is not like a great note if that's not who you are. I don't want to change how you do comedy and how you see comedy and how you write, but I am giving you the notes to make you a successful club comedian or a comedian working the clubs. So my notes are usually geared towards how to become a host, how to move the feature, things that you should do to have a more consistent set. And I give a lot of the same notes, by the way. So anybody listening to this, I'll tell you, here's your first note if you don't work a comedy club.
Listen up.
Okay? Get to the jokes. Get to the jokes. I always say, and this is not... I don't always set a timer for this, but first punchline, 15 seconds, especially if you want to host. And then you can go into a story. Mm-hmm. So often, I'm writing people, hey, your first punchline was 1 minute and 8 seconds, 1 minute and 20 seconds. You cannot open with a really long story. Friday night, Saturday night, maybe. But you do weekends, and those involve Wednesdays and Thursdays, which might be papered audiences, blue hairs, smaller crowds, right? They're definitely probably not there to see you. So you gotta win them over. And that said, it isn't actually always about getting laughs as the host. Yes, it's amazing if you get laughs from start to finish. Mm-hmm. But you're almost a curator of the evening, in a way.
You're setting the table.
Mm-hmm.
You're teaching the audience here's what's going to happen. Here's your expectation. Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep it going. Yeah, absolutely.
And as someone booking, I know the difference between a good comic just having a bad set versus just someone who's not ready.
That was always hard for me to keep my head up and have a bad set, and that's the mark of a really comfortable comic. You can really... Eating it is a state of mind. I've always believed that. Eating it is when you crawl inside yourself and shrivel up. It really doesn't... It's not about the crowd.
Yeah, if you bomb, I think bombing means you come apart. But if the crowd doesn't like you and you're staying professional
and you're good...
Yeah, it's like, all right, it's not working tonight for whatever reason, but... Yeah.
Arj Barker said that to me. Arj Barker said, way back in the day, he said, I've never bombed. I've had some shitty crowds. And he knew his voice though. And he if you think about it, that's Arj. He knows who he is.
Well, let's talk about the things when that host set might not be going your way. What do you do, right? If you, I don't want to say plow through, because plow through.
Speed up, plow through, look for the light.
But don't. You are plowing through, but don't.
That's what I used to do.
Your jokes, be present, but don't.
How much time do I have left?
Yeah. Yes, don't do things like that. Okay.
Yeah. Say things like, "So what else is going on?"
Yeah, the side comments when they start. This is going great because if you don't believe in yourself, the audience is not going to believe in yourself, and then they're not going to believe in the rest of the show. Oh, I have an interesting story. There was a comic who doesn't do comedy anymore and moved, but was a local comic who I found very funny. Had to do 3 auditions before I passed them. And the very first time, opened with a couple of jokes, and all you could hear in the back was my cackle. My ha 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 ha. My cackle, and nothing else. The audience was dead quiet, and they pretty much were dead quiet for like 15 minutes, and the only laugh was that you could hear was me, because the comic was a really good joke writer. But that comic came across as such an asshole. When they got on stage, they were very intimidating, and they weren't able to set the table, right? They weren't able to do something, whether it be self-deprecating or something to get the crowd on his side. So they just hated him, even though his jokes were good. And so that was my note, was to find a way to bring the audience in, do whatever it is you need to do in the beginning to get them to like you. Because once they deem you okay, once they like you, you could almost take them on any journey. But you got to build that trust.
Yeah.
And a lot of comics these days, they just think walking on stage and just doing whatever jokes that they want to do, that there's no process. There's no...
It's a give and take. It's always going to be a give and take. But Ron, let me ask you that. Let's get deep inside Lake Ron. Let's go for a deep dive now. So I got three big questions for you, okay? And they're all interrelated, all right? Why did you start stand-up comedy? Once you were in stand-up comedy, was there a situation or a comedian that really impacted you negatively or positively? And then what is your personal process for developing new material? So how'd you start? What impacted you? How do you continue to write?
I have really bad ADHD, so you'll probably have to ask the questions about 5 more times.
That's okay. So what got you into stand-up?
What got me into stand-up? Okay. When you're a child, you do things like probably around our age, we probably all had the same experience in one way or another. Sneaking into the family living room when people aren't there and watching things on TV that you shouldn't. Now, for most kids, it's usually like nudies or just scrambled Playboy channel, or HBO had that Real Sex series. Those are all things that you're trying to, and then you'd go to school and the kids would talk about it. Oh, last night I did this and that. Well, me, I wasn't doing that. I was sneaking up to watch Joan Rivers host Monday Night on Carson. I was sneaking to watch A&E's like Evening at the Improv or Ladies Night Out, those types of things. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I was always finding myself very interested in stand-up comedy. Like many comedians, I had a little darker childhood. I had a lot of troubles, and between the family dynamic and just sort of being a different type of kid, and I think that's where I found comfort. And so as time went on, I was always a class clown. I was always the funny kid, the funny guy. Time went on, I went to college, and I tried to double major in theater, and guess what? I'm terrible at acting. I'm terrible. I got kicked out of a Tennessee Williams play because they said my southern accent sounded Indian.
Southern Indian.
So from there, I found improv, and I was like, oh, this is something. I was really bad at reading lines written. I was really bad at staging and listening, blocking, things like that. But I found improv, and improv was just thinking on your feet and being in the moment, and there was still a skill set to that, right? With yes and how you develop scenes and working with partners. And I got really into improv, but I'm like, I don't think there's much money in improv. And from there, I noticed stand-up comedy, and I'll take this class. And so I took a class in New York City, and then I did my first show at Caroline's, and then the rest is history.
Wow.
Okay. I got into stand-up comedy.
So now let's move forward a little bit in time. You're doing stand-up comedy in San Francisco. You've been around for a little while. Is there a comedian that really impacted you, a situation that really impacted you? Like what gave you an idea of what direction to move in?
Well, I'll say this. At San Francisco Punchline, it was interesting when you're kind of a brand new comic that nobody really knows you're new, so there's nothing there. Like they're not looking to put you on their shows because you're not quite killing yet. You're still developing, and I obviously was not booking anything, so they don't want anything from you. And so it's interesting to go back in time and think about who treated you in what way. And I can point out like local comics who were doing comedy then that treated me like a person, you and like Tony D'Amico was around a lot, Connor Kellickett. These are people that you were just always very friendly and nice and supportive. And I even did some things as a comic early on that I shouldn't have done, like the San Francisco International Comedy Competition. I think.
Oh my God, I remember that.
We were on it, and
That's
there was a story about this.
I do remember that. Yeah, in Reading.
What happened?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, feel free to tell that story.
I almost think that you should tell the story because I think I've heard you say it before in the past, and I think you saw it in such a different perspective. I was young and clueless, and I was just being me, and I had no idea. I was still new to California. I had no idea where Reading was, what it was like. I really didn't even focus on the Confederate flag that was, up at the venue we were performing at. So I was just there doing my thing and being completely clueless to it, and I think you.
Well, I mean, to be honest, like my memory, I hate to admit this, my memory is not as good as it used to be.
Yeah,
but here's what I remember. So, and Dan, the San Francisco Comedy Competition.
Yeah, maybe I'll jump in with my quick story after this.
You're everywhere.
Might be similar.
You're everywhere but San Francisco.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Which is classic John Fox. And one of the nights was in Reading, which, I mean, the stereotypes are unfortunately true about the audiences that you're encountering up there. So Ron goes on, and the audience quickly turns on him because he's gay, and they did not like that. I can't remember. Somebody shouted something out, though, right? Like they shouted.
I don't remember exactly, but I will say this. 2002 Ron versus now, I feel like I can handle it now.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
It would be fine, because I'll do any room, anywhere, and I have so much experience on the road now. But then was very different.
And
right.
I just
you don't have an arsenal.
Well,
deal with it.
I think you were like, I remember because I had to follow you, and I remember watching you. Just you always watch the act that's before you, and I just saw a sincere, painful look on your face at what you were encountering or what the audience was giving to you. And then I went up and I scolded the audience, basically like laid into them a little bit. Like
Uncle Joe was always good at that. Joe, come on. And
the irony is about that whole night, I came in second, and that was the highest I scored in any night of the competition. So I was beating them up for being homophobic. But I just remember we were at like a Denny style restaurant afterwards, a bunch of us sitting around talking about it. And all the comics were very much on your side. All the comics were like, yeah, that's ridiculous. That's, that shouldn't be what it is. But, man, I wish I could remember more of the specifics and it might come back to me. But I just remember it was
something that you or somebody else overheard in a bathroom, somebody talking about like I don't remember the exact words, but there was also an Asian person, and they had a derogatory term for the Asian person and me, of course.
Yeah.
And you guys were like, we have to like hang around. And I think you basically shielded me and us.
That's right. Because the other comics, we were like, we just got to make sure nothing else. I mean, it was really it's sad, and I think. I would like to hope that Reading has changed somewhat.
I think it has.
Yeah.
I think, okay, this is what's very interesting about comedy. For how terrible our world is right now and how much division there is, I find that comedy audiences are more cohesive. I find like I can actually be me in a lot more places where you think that you can't be me. And as a comic, I know how. But I love sports, right? And
but don't you think that's a product more of you becoming a better comedian than society becoming more cohesive?
No, it's both. Because
Let me say,
yes, I could take them on a journey that they might make them uncomfortable, but they can see that I'm funny. But I actually feel, for instance, I did New Year's Eve in Oklahoma this year. Okay, 25 years ago, a comic who happens to be gay probably would not be doing New Year's Eve shows in Oklahoma. And they were successful shows. And then the next night on New Year's Day, I actually had another show at a different venue in Oklahoma at another comedy club. And they were successful. And we do have to stop underestimating people. I did Montana last year. And Montana was also amazing. But it's like one of the reddest states where a lot of bullshit is coming out of.
Yeah.
And yet everybody that I came across, even in the small community that I think maybe has 1,000 people in that community, I did a show and killed, and they loved it. So I don't know really how to phrase it, but it's like the bigger picture is almost like telling people how to think, and we're making. And that's making us make assumptions. And sure, there's shitty people out there, and I don't need to perform for a certain group of people. But if they happen to be in the audience, I'm going to do my best to like bring us all together, and it usually works. Nobody is ever, that I know of, like upset. There was a story actually that the last time that I could think of someone having an issue was Auburn, California,
which is up that way. It's up by
Yeah, it's not, and this was maybe 2019, and I don't know, I'm probably not going to be able to find it this quickly, but basically what happened was someone during my set complained to the venue about, I don't have any problems with being gay, but he's promoting that lifestyle. They did that line.
Because you're doing jokes. Yeah, you're doing.
Were you signing people up after the show?
Promoting.
Well, I wanted to get the blender, yes.
Right. So in other words, she has no problem with you being gay silently. But unfortunately, comedy doesn't work.
And listen, I'm not a comic who thinks I'm killing. Like I'd rather think that I bombed than killed, But I knew that I was having a very good set and that people were into it. So here's the deal, though. They had a raffle, and so they had that lady's name. So I found her on social media, and I wrote her a message. But I wrote her a very comedic message. And
are you interested in the gay lifestyle? You've just won a free weekend.
Yes, that's kind of. I'm actually scrolling
brunch?
trying to find that message on my IG because I know that it's deep in here somewhere, and I will read it to you.
Dan, Ron, find that message. We got to hear that message. But Dan, what was your experience that you had?
I want to comment on. So, I haven't thought about this in a long time, but what you were talking about, Ron, about being surprised by audiences, it really is true. And I was doing crazy shit in the late 90s. When you're new, you have a certain naivete, and you just do it. You just kind of go for it. I remember my material pre the coffee joke. I like my women like I like my coffee. Pre that, it was very anal sexy, and I was just doing what those were the jokes I was writing opening in Santa Rosa. And then you look back and go, man, that was insane. But it went okay. And I remember after thinking exactly what you were saying, like, well, people are kind of cool. I remember this guy walking out. This guy's like, yeah, it was funny, dude. Hey, if I had a few more beers in me, I might, why not? Like a lot of that.
Why not? Like that's the difference between him being gay and not being gay. It's 3 more beers.
But from him, that's
his way. Yeah, that's as good as he's going to be able to compliment.
And I have to say, there was more of that than people all weird.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I was always pleasantly surprised with what I could get away with, and there probably is more cool people than not cool, but the not cool ruins the show.
If you're coming to see
so
stand-up
easy
comedy, you've
to
already
ruin-
committed to like, I want to have fun, I want to laugh, right? So I think, the people showing up to stand-up comedy, more
Either
often than
way.
not, they're going to be more open-minded. They're going to be,
Even if you're at Josie's Cabaret and Juice Joint, it only takes 2 lesbian to screw your setup.
Well, that's a special breed of heckle right there. That will cut you to your soul.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, when lesbians
I have
hiss,
a few of those. Oh,
now you've screwed up.
but yes, I did the competition. I was out talking about being gay. I did the competition. It was just very early in my career. Do you remember that, Joe?
Oh yeah,
I got the competition.
Yeah,
my
it was
first. And that was a brutal week. Brutal because I was so inexperienced doing this deep, didn't really know who I was on stage, but sharing so much.
Yeah.
And what I remember is the comedians that were doing it with me then, it was Joey Diaz and Danny Hamilton and, Mimi Gonzalez.
God, I remember her.
And-
Wow.
And they were super cool and supportive and saying, just keep at it.
Yeah, good. As it should.
Keep doing it. And they were a lot more generous to me than I was to myself. It was a character building week.
I found the message.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
So I wrote this lady who said I was promoting the homosexual lifestyle. I have no problem with it, but he shouldn't be promoting it up there. So I wrote, "Good morning."
Already gay.
Gay greetings, get out of here.
Yes.
Good morning. I just wanted to say thank you so much for attending my seminar on promoting the homosexual lifestyle last evening in Auburn. I know that your husband seemed to be much more keen on the idea of promoting the homosexual lifestyle than you, but I am here to give you a special offer. If you attend comedy at the brewery again and listen to just a little more of my comedic promotion of homosexuality, I will throw in 1 week of your choice at a beautiful timeshare. You even get to choose your location: Palm Springs, California, Provincetown, Massachusetts, or Fire Island, New York. Ooh. Also, as a special bonus, I will throw in a free comedy album of mine. So act now. Homosexuality is trending in 2020, and this is a limited time offer only.
Nice. Well played.
And
did you hear back from her?
No, I didn't. just a hiss. Just a hiss.
I think... And, the funny thing is, even though you were obviously flipping her some shit, you took the time to do that. Seriously. I consider that good customer service.
Good call.
You did.
You know what? Well put. Yeah.
You catered a joke to her.
Yeah, you created something just for that
Really?
person. An audience of one. Yeah.
Well, it's like one of those things. Like, what do people say? Like, if you have an issue, like even if the person is like long dead, like write a letter, right? You're not sending it, but write a letter. It's almost that same thing, It was like almost cathartic for me in a way, and then maybe make a point out of it. And I get it if people aren't laughing, but I was doing really well at that show. And this was 2020. I know how to handle that back then. I know how to handle myself as a comic at this point. So much different than Redding, California story from so long ago. But yeah. Yeah, so but otherwise people invite you. I mean, I remember doing gigs in like Louisville. I worked a club there, and people were like, "Are you here in a few weeks? You should come to our Kentucky Derby party and this and that." Like, people want you around, and yeah, they just see you for like being a funny person who's there to entertain and being a person.
Yeah.
And sometimes we all know as comics you have to flip it around. So sometimes if you are in a venue or an area that you think might be a little I'll move my sports stuff up front, or I'll try to find as many local jokes as possible pointing out, because I love when you kind of like poke fun at their community in their area, in a playful way, and then you bring them all in that way. You've taken the time to learn something about their area. and their experience with it. So, there are those tools that could also make them like me a little better, playing mind tricks on them. But yeah, so what was the second question? Did I answer that yet?
Yeah, you actually answered it. Let me hit you with the third one, which was, what's your process like now? Are you some people write, they sit physically write, they're on a laptop, they're going to open mics, they're saying it out loud. What's your process like to develop new stuff?
It's terrible.
Elaborate.
That's honest. Yeah. Can you talk about that more?
I have a hard time writing. That might be an ADHD thing as well. When you have ADHD, one of the things that they tell you is make a bunch of lists. And I remember being in a group therapy session about that, where I chimed in. I'm like, lists don't work for me. And they didn't have an answer for that. So they told me, hold all questions. Here's the problem with lists, okay? And notebooks, like, here's one, okay? Here's another one that I have, okay?
Jesus.
There's a paper over here, okay? I'm constantly creating lists. I have this phone and I have one note thing that just scrolls forever, okay? I have organization issues. So that also means that I just cannot sit down and write. I kind of know the tools to use when you sit down and write and brainstorm and create little bubbles and this and that. But now I just have to write a keyword. I have to write a keyword. I got to talk it out a little bit, and then I kind of build it on stage. Here's my biggest problem. I do a lot of my writing in the shower, but then I'm soaking wet trying to put down what I wrote. What? I'm trying to put down what I wrote in the shower and it's soaking wet. So even like yesterday I had 3 shows. I had a matinee, which I am here for. Matinees are becoming things now, and I love it. I had a matinee and I had 2 evening shows, and I took one joke that I wrote in the shower yesterday morning, and I tried it through all 3 shows and built on a little bit, and by the 3rd show I was kind of doing a little more of an act out with it, and I was sandwiching it in the middle, and that's sort of like my process is now. I get the idea, I get a couple of sort of punchlines that I've talked through, usually in the shower or somewhere, put those on paper, and then I just build it. But here's the problem. For me, when I try new material, I am a setup punch comic. I boom, 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 boom. Very easily distracted, so I just keep pulling and going, and I know how I'm going to start, and I know how I'm going to finish, and the middle is always up for interpretation. But when I try new material, I definitely have a different cadence. It takes a moment, and I feel like it's sort of like it's like a car stopping and going abruptly and then stopping again, and that is tough on me. And then also, I've reached a point, and we all do this as comedians, I have a lot more personal stuff that I want to talk about. I have a lot more stuff that I want to be vulnerable about. As an adult now in my late 40s, I really didn't have a lot of shit happen to me in my 20s and 30s, and I had a lot of fucking shit happen to me in my 40s, and I want to talk about it. But I've established myself as a comedian with this joke monkey type of set up punch. And now it's hard to get into stories and other things.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling with the idea that I almost have to go, and I'm fine with this to a degree, and eat it for months trying to build really what I want to talk about, because those are things that are important to me that I feel strongly about. But then, let's flip it right back. That gatekeeper, I cannot bomb in front of comics who I'm in charge of booking, because then they're going to talk shit about me and then be like, he doesn't even know how to do comedy and that and this and that. So then that's why I feel like sometimes I don't grow fast enough.
So you're
I'm
auditioning
about that image.
You're auditioning for them.
Yeah, kind of. I'm still a comic, and I need to be liked, and I need to know, I have that, that I want them to think that I'm a good comic, but I also don't want to be a gatekeeper. I know that that's what it is, but I hate that term. I can separate the two. I cannot book you, but still do a show next to you and be very nice to you, and I don't hate anybody. I don't, I separate it. I'm a comic and I have a job to do. And I take the job that I do very seriously, and I take doing comedy very seriously. But they don't need to, mesh together. But people have a hard time with it, and they get weird around me a lot. They're afraid to talk to me. Like, even last night, I did 2 shows, and the green room was, like, kind of empty. And then one person said to me, oh, thanks for taking, like, 5 minutes to just sit down and talk to me. I go, I'm not talking to you about anything important or even the business. I'm just talking to you because you're a human and I'm a human and we're having conversation. But they're so weird about it sometimes. Yeah. I'm like, I'm a person. Talk to me. Don't put me up here. I'm not like the god of comedy. I want to do comedy. I want to be around the community. I'm not the type that's going to go out till 2 a.m. anymore. I'm not going to go get plastered with you. But when we're around, I want to just hang.
Yeah, just be a person. Here's the big question we ask everyone. Yeah.
Let me throw this at him.
Oh, go. You fire away, Dan.
Yes, this is our final question. So, Ron Vigh, you have started comedy around 2001. You've worked your way up in San Francisco both as a performer and a booker. You clearly do the road, and you've developed a solid act for all kinds of audiences, and you have built this comedy career.
Solid is a strong word, but yes.
Okay. Do you feel successful?
No.
That's the consistent answer.
I thought so.
Yeah.
But we just thought we'd ask. But,
it's amazing to ask that question of all different kinds of comedians at all different levels, and that is consistently the answer that comes back. Why?
Quickly. Why?
You know, if you asked me 10 years ago, before 1-minute clips on TikTok and everything were taking off, I might have felt more successful. But now you're competing against something that you can't really compete with. And the problem is that, I mean, let's just take someone like you, Joe, okay? You're a strong comic. If someone says, I need a strong local comic to do an hour right now, you're like really high. Like you're like probably the top on the list. It was like someone to call, okay? Now, are you getting a Netflix special tomorrow? Absolutely not.
Am I? Is that being discussed?
Yeah.
Shit.
But are you capable of doing a Netflix special?
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? And this is what the industry has become. So 10 years ago, before a lot of this existed, you think, okay, I am going through the things. I'm doing comedy festivals. Maybe I can get like Montreal. Maybe like that's not even the marker anymore. You know, the marker is 1-minute clips that someone's gonna find you and think you're promotable, and then boom, you're out there doing a special, even though you don't really have anything special to say. So I felt like I was going through the steps a long time ago. And yes, I'm locally successful. I'm successful in a certain way, but not in the way that when we were coming up that we thought marked success in comedy. Now it's a whole different ball game, and it's a really freaking annoying because talent, it doesn't like Joe, we like Joe's the guy for so many situations, for a corporate event, for a local comedy show, you know, on a Wednesday. If there's someone being murdered right now, or
it's all right. I'm at a school event. It's a
that little girl just got a Netflix special. Yeah.
Little girl just doing
being able to actually do comedy,
right? Being able to, I mean, success and fame, like being a talented comedian and being a famous comedian, the difference has never been wider.
Yeah.
Because I see it too. Yeah.
Internally, you look in the mirror, and after all you've achieved.
Wow,
success,
really?
Oh, I have a very negative. I mean, I just had this my therapist last week said to me, you know, not many people over 2 years go backwards when you fill out these
when you fill out the scales.
Holy shit!
Exactly. It's like getting worse.
Your therapist heckled you.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm a comedian. It's really not going to. And when it goes up, it's because I've had a really busy week and I kept busy doing comedy, and then most likely had good sets. And when it goes down, it's because I wasn't booked for 4 or 5 days, and I had too much time on my hand to spiral. But no, I actually moving back to San Francisco in the last 3 weeks has made me feel even less successful.
Oh my God!
Because city living is very different here. You pay a premium to live somewhere, but you don't actually get sort of premium amenities all around you. And I moved back after 5 years of living in brand new builds in Las Vegas with pickleball courts and gyms and space and walk-in closets. I'm now back into this tiny, cramped San Francisco apartment. And it actually makes you feel way less successful. It feels like you're going backwards. And the comedy aspect here, like I said, if we're wrapping up, I want to jump this in. Do not take local comedy in San Francisco Bay Area for granted. Get out there. Do the stage time. Now, don't do quantity over quality. Don't try to get 4 sets in one night if you're just plowing through. Actually use that stage time for purpose and for meaning and for like building out your set, and then also get the money. And there is money, and I'm sure you guys probably talk about this too. There is money in local comedy here, all over Sacramento, Central Valley, Napa, but also know your value. Know your value.
Well, that's the big thing. That's
clubs and one-nighters, or are there paid shows in the city?
Oh, there is.
There is paid work everywhere, but I think there's a scale, right? Like, I'm not going to do a $50 set in the city. For me, I'm just like, I could use that time for other things. Also, what I've encountered recently too is like, yeah, I'm getting offered gigs that I have to drive an hour and a half round trip. And it's like, listen, there's a certain amount of money I need to make if I'm going to cross a bridge, and I've said that to people, and I feel like sometimes they take it like, oh, well, look who's Mr. Above me. I'm like, no, it's 35 years of experience. Yeah.
Mr. want to get paid for what
exactly,
they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in some ways, the money has gone down in areas, which is crazy to me. In other ways, yeah, there is a lot of good money out there. But like anything else, it's such a patchwork, and you spend a lot of time just being your own agent, being your own business manager, being your own promotion person. I feel like to be a successful stand-up comedian now in this era is less about being a good comedian, and it's more about just acquiring these other skills. And those people are driving out some of the people who are really talented. And I don't think they're doing it in a negative way. They don't even realize, like, hey, look, all that energy and effort you're putting in to hacking the algorithm to get your 30-second TikTok clip going viral, good for you. But when you cannot do an hour and the club is like, we need to bring someone else in, I'm going to get that phone call. But then the irony is I'm not going to get the same pay. Right. So but that's also the deal we've made. Like, it's not fair. It's show business, not show fair, show business.
There's 2 things that I want to talk about there real quick.
Fire away.
One would know your value. I had this happen to me last night, and I don't know if anybody's listening, if they're going to try to go back and look at my social media and find out where I am. I am not talking anything negative about the producer of this show or anything like that, but it's just going back to the idea of know your value. I did something that I never do, and that is I asked for more money after it was already settled in the gig, because it was Valentine's Day, and the gig was initially supposed to be normally on a different day, and I was booked for that day, and then they said, oh, wait, it's Valentine's Day, or they didn't even say Valentine's Day, they said, we're moving it to, the weekend this time. And I think it was, we should have known it was Valentine's Day, but sometimes you're so busy, and you're taking gigs, you're like, oh, I'm free then, I'll just move it, and you don't fully, process it. So then the day before, we get the message about, hey, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night, blah, blah, blah. We have already sold 250 tickets. So then I look at 250 tickets, I Google how much a ticket cost was, I add that up, and then I look how much I'm being paid, and I go, oh no. Right? Because I was headlining. And it was 2 shows, not one. Originally it was for 1 show on a weeknight, now it's 2 shows on a weekend. And I go, oh, this is not the money that I should be getting for this.
Right. Good for you for saying something. Yeah.
I am the headliner, and I am doing a longer set, and this is not longer set headliner money on a weekend on a Valentine's Day when you sold 250. And when I walked in that night, they're like, oh, we're up to 300 plus tickets. And I'm like, it only would take less than a dozen tickets to make up what I'm being paid. So I asked. And I got a very long message that I didn't get paid yet, but that implies that I might get more in the end, depending. But yes, I took the gig, and I will never usually cancel something that I take, but I did speak up because the money was low in that situation, and I had really good sets, and I know that the audience left happy. It was a really good, well-rounded show, but I should have been paid more money for that. And there was something else. I should have written it down because there's also another really important. We're talking about know your value too. Okay, listen. You said something about not taking a $50 set in a city because you could use your time, and that's perfect. That's for you, For me, I take anything usually, but I also want to be if I don't have to go crazy. If I could hop on Muni or walk 10 blocks for $20, I will use that stage time, But also, just because you can headline doesn't mean you have to headline everything. And
I would agree with that, 100%. Right? Yeah,
and
because that's actually gotten me in trouble. Not trouble, but I wanted to do a month. Basically asked a local booker, hey, could I just do sets, just 10-minute sets? I'm not interested in getting paid. And they said yes. And the idea was I'm bringing my notebook up, but I'm not going to bomb so badly that it's going to leave a hole in the show. But I want to use some quality stage time to create. And they said yes. And then I got to the shows, and on 3 of the nights, they said, look, you got a headline because we don't have a strong show. And I'm like, not my problem, because this was the reason why I don't want it, because a headliner should be the headliner, right? You got to bring it, you got to tie it up. That's what a headliner should be. And I can't go up and use that stage time for what I originally wanted it to do. But yeah, I mean, look, everyone's got to weigh it individually. I didn't mean to cut you off. We're up against the clock though, but Ron, final thoughts. Anything about comedy? Final thoughts.
Anything about comedy? Okay. If you are a comic just starting 2 years in, 3 years in, 5 years in, 10 years in, go through the process. Don't rush it. Don't think you need an hour right away. Don't even look for new material. Take what you have and mine it. If you have one really strong joke that is fail-proof, you're always getting a big laugh on that, shoot out from there. Just start writing tags, start writing related premises to that. Shoot out from there and build that out. As a booker and someone who does local comedy, I don't see that happening enough.
You want someone who can open a room.
Yeah, take something that's true to you and build it and go deep. Don't worry, I will say, I said to somebody one time, they asked me to watch their open mic set somewhere, and afterwards I was like, and they're like, you did 15 minutes of jokes in 5 minutes, and it was all over the place because I was trying to show you range. I'm like, trying to show me range, just show me 5 minutes of decent material. You had something that you opened with that was so strong. It was about being divorced at a very early age, and I'm like, it's very relatable because everybody has had a good and a bad relationship, and that specific thing might not be what happened to them, but it's relatable. So take that, it was good, and build that out. But I don't need your hot take on transsexuals 3 minutes into it. That's not usually what a lot of people are interested in. So take
people want to be brilliant and edgy immediately. You don't.
When you go to a job interview, okay,
and you're not going to be good
at it. You
have
a resume, and in comedy, your resume is you, is who you are. So just talk from the heart. Dig deep, find that, mine it, and go through the steps, and let yourself go through the steps. Don't rush it. Very few people are famous overnight, and I know it seems that way on social media, but that is not the case. Just work hard at being you, being a good person, a good comic. Just work, and it will come. And don't compare yourself to anybody else's path and story. Just be you, and let what you do on stage speak for yourself.
Amen.
On that note, thank you, Ron.
Really wish you hadn't promoted the homosexual lifestyle as much, but
yeah. So anyway.
I guess I look forward to my email.
1-800-HOMO.
Seriously though, Ron, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I
to
think,
see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you. And this will go up probably Monday. That's tomorrow, somewhere between 3 and 4. And please shoot it out to all your friends and fans.
Yeah.
And to all of our 42 subscribers.
Yes.
Please like and follow us. Continue.
Break us through. Yes, everybody, like and subscribe. Great to see you.
Peace out.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.